Well, LM goes to
And LM goes which way?
the left.
Goes left. What do you have?
Higher rates.
Well, you have a recession, right? then it's pretty bad actually. You start having actually the unemployment rate is higher than its natural rate. So the 70s was a big mess. It was a big mess because not only were we coming out of a period where policymakers were trying to exploit the short-run trade-off every year a bit more, right? Not understanding the important role of expectations. In addition, you started to have oil shocks. Those oil shocks lift even more the expectations. And the whole thing it's terrible. You've got recessions at the same time as inflation because people expect inflation to keep on going.
Unemployment.
So what do? You're stuck at, let's say now we are back to general equilibrium. We're 1979, let's say. Inflation is running high, let's say 12%. So my inflation expectations are 12%, and I'm here.
High and to the left.
What do? So what happened in '79? Volcker arrived, new chairman of the Fed. This guy is not a big fan of inflation, not at all. Okay, so he comes and he says, "Look, guys, this is absolutely ridiculous. We now have an inflation rate of 12%. The mortgage rates are at like 17, 18%. The whole thing is just a total mess. So we got to do something, right? We've gone through this inflationary spiral. That's how we call the 70s. This inflationary spiral where you have higher expectations, and then it's kind of fed by the Fed, who doesn't want to create a recession right? So imagine that you start expecting prices to go up a lot. If you don't want a recession, what do you do with your money supply? You increase it, right? Because if you don't, then the real money supply curve shifts to the left. The LM curve shifts to the left, you have a recession. Then there's oil shocks. Then people are like, for sure we're right to expect inflation at 8%. Now the inflation is 12% because oil prices have gone up. It's a whole mess. So what do? If you don't like this?
Create unemployment.
You create a recession, right? Really? And what do? I mean, the only way to get it back down is to get inflation expectations to go down. Now, unless you have a lot of credibility, which was not the case of the Fed at the time, imagine, they've gone through 10 years of worsening hell, right? And now, do you think the Fed is going to come and say, guys, by the way, adjust your expectations. The sheriff is back in town. That is not very credible, right? Credibility, forget about it, right? Because the beautiful thing, the fantastic thing would be if you were able to convince people that inflation is not going to be 12% anymore, but it's going to be 2%. What would happen? It's like the miraculous potion, right? You just get you get from here to here, right? You tell everyone, guys, increase your prices by only 2%. We're gonna make sure that the money supply is also not growing too fast, and we're gonna get right there. Now, at the time it was impossible for the Fed to do that. Not only the Fed, other central banks too. It was a problem that many other countries were going through because all the countries were basing their monetary policy a little bit with the Phillips curve in mind, the original Phillips curve. So then what you do, you have to create a recession, right? You have to force people to readjust their expectations. So how do you do this here? So what's happening right now is that every year, the money supply increases by 12%, inflation expectation at 12%, so the whole thing stays around here. You are at general equilibrium, right? But with prices increasing at a rate of 12% a year. So what do you do with the money supply?
Reduce the supply.
You decrease, well in this case you can just decrease, you don't even have to decrease the money supply, you can just decrease the rate at which the money supply increases. Right, so instead of growing at a rate of 12%, let's say that you cut it to 5%. Check! 12%, 5%. Inflation expectations, there's like it's been, I don't believe this Fed, right? So I keep having prices increasing at a rate of, let's say, 10, 12%. What happens in the graph here?
LM goes
The
to the
LM
left.
shifts to the left. Right? Why? Because now in this market right here, I've got the money supply growing slower than prices. The real money supply contracts. So I've got my LM here. What happens on my Phillips curve graph? Where am I? Right now, at the point where I haven't, don't go too fast. Like, so in my ISLM framework, I'm here. Right? And then we start having an adjustment. Right? Let's start having an adjustment. What is going to be the adjustment of prices? They're going to start decreasing, right? Right? You've had aggregate demand that is lower than aggregate supply. Prices will start decreasing. Like I should say, when I say decreasing here, they will start growing at a slower rate, I should say. Because here we're in an economy where stuff is growing over time. Right? So, where am I on the Phillips curve? Yes, you move along the curve. Expectations have not adjusted yet. People are kind of on the shock. Like, oh my God, what's happening? Right? Boom. High unemployment, inflation starts going down because there is a slowdown in the economy. Yes.
Quick question, I think goes back up. How do you get high